Well, hello and welcome to this webinar. My name is Richard Lanning and I'll be your host for the next hour. I should probably explain a little bit about who I am. I run my own business, which means I am a lot of things. I am the janitor, I am the tea boy, I am the accountant, I am the dog's body, I am all of it. My business helps other people to start businesses. So some of you might know me from our work with the York and North Yorkshire Growth Hub. And I have a side hustle and a history in kind of marketing. And these days that has led into sort of behavioral design and UX. So I come at all this website stuff very much with a kind of UX designery. Does it work for the customer viewpoint of things? But I'm not so good at the coding. I know a little bit, but not a lot. And so I'm really excited that my co-host today is Hannah. Hannah, who are you?
My name is Hannah, and I initially trained as a UX designer, but then I moved into full stack development because I like doing stuff. I like creating the products rather than just designing it. And now I have my own web development company based in York.
So I'm really excited to have Hannah because we get on because we both come from the UX. Does it work for the customer viewpoint? But she knows all the technical stuff that I don't know. And today we're going to need that because today is all about having a look at running a bit of a web check, running a bit of a DIY health check on your website to make sure it's doing all that it should be doing for you. And so it very quickly can end up with you feeling a little bit kind of stuck in the numbers. And there are so many numbers and there are so many different kind of weird error messages. And this is the performance score I got when I embarked on getting ready for this webinar. I went and checked our maintenance page and I was very miserable. I was very depressed by all of these stats and all of these numbers, and so it's with great relief we've got an expert here who can help us through all of this. But before we dive into these numbers, and it is easy to get overwhelmed and lost with these, it is useful to step back a little bit and say, well, what is your website for? What is your web objective? And there's a few different things that you might be trying to achieve with your website. It might be that priority number one is, well, making sales, getting cash in the door. But even within that, is your objective at the moment to just get more orders, to get lots and lots of orders? Or is it more about actually just increasing your revenue? And you don't mind if you don't get more orders, if those orders are bigger and giving you more money, and actually it's just revenue that you're caring about. It might be that you're not so bothered by the money. Maybe your job is to inform. Maybe you're really there just to entertain or to educate. You might be on a mission to grow your audience, to grow that fan base, or you might be on a mission to engage the ones you've got. Quite often in business, we're trying to do a mix of all of these different things. And when you turn to your website, you can start to monitor whether you're hitting these objectives. And then it gets a bit baffling. And there are so many different ways that we can monitor these things. If we take a look through them, could you perhaps pick out a couple of sort of key ways that we could measure some of these?
Yeah. So for making more sales, it's quite straightforward, really. If you have more sales, that is good, and that's what we like. I will say one thing to monitor for everybody, regardless of what your goal of your website is traffic. Make sure you're actually getting people to your website. Just as a blanket rule, everyone needs to be monitoring traffic. Within sales, to take it a step further, you might want to analyze individual product lines. So which products are doing well, and maybe try to analyze why they're doing well and build on that success. And then perhaps look at products that aren't selling well and investigate that a little further.
Great. And then if we're aiming to kind of educate, inform, entertain, how do we measure that? Do we have to have a laughometer on our website? Like, what kind of metrics could we look at
That would
for
be
this kind of
weird.
mission?
I would suggest that looking at bounce rate is the first one. So what that means is when people land on your website and basically they interact with nothing, they click off without clicking any links, without scrolling, without looking at your nav. And so a high bounce rate is bad, and we don't want that really. You want to be looking really below 40% sort of
Mhm.
area. That's just about okay. So then yeah, if you've got a high bounce rate, what I will just add is it could be a design or a content issue, but we come to that later. The second thing to monitor would be session duration. So if you're trying to inform, educate, and entertain people, you want them on your website because they need to be reading things. So are they reading? Are they not? And have a look at why that is the case.
Yeah, and have a good hunt around on those bounce rates. We have an interesting issue with our bounce rates is that we are called the enterprise cube, and there is an enterprise cube in India. And so we always get a fair number of people clicking from India going, "Oh, is this Enterprise Cube India?" And they go, "Oh no, this is not a tech investment thing in India. I'm going to disappear and go and find the right company." And so we always kind of have to take out this kind of portion of in people going to India or people coming from India and yeah, mishitting us basically. I should get in touch with them and say, do you have to do the same thing? Do you have to take out 10% of your bounce rate that are just people who clicked on the wrong website? I don't really know how we fix that, but but do have a look around as to why this bounce rate is happening, and yeah, think broadly about it. And then growing the fan base. If we're increasing our audience, what should we be looking for there?
Again, obviously traffic and then best performing content. So which page has your most views? If you've got a blog, for example, how many likes or shares, or for an e-commerce store, which items are being saved into people's favorites? And then again, just a bit of an analysis, figure out why that might be. The second one, again, if you're trying to grow a fan base, obviously you want them on your website. So another good one for this, similar to the inform and educate, is session duration.
Mm.
So how long are they on certain pages? Are they stopping to read, or are they jumping off?
Yeah. And kind of engaging the fan base, we end up looking at similar stuff, don't we? But just kind of different priorities on what numbers we want to see moving. Yeah, any top tips on engaging those existing customers?
Keeping an active blog is really good for doing that. You can embed your social media into your website so that you're not having to duplicate content quite as much. You know, you're doing it on Insta and then having to redo it again on your website. You can embed those into your website, and just keep your website active,
Mm.
keep it fresh.
Yeah, yeah. Make sure there are things for people to come back to, and then yeah, I guess we're monitoring the traffic as to whether people are engaging with those things that we're putting up. Um, Now, with all of these sort of top tier big objectives, the way that you tend to monitor them is with one of these analytic things. And this is not going to be a session on how to use Google Analytics because oh, it's a bit of a beast. They have recently made it much better. Hotjar's a bit more cuddly. Adobe Analytics again, it's just another way to look at things and to go at things. Do get to know them more, at least the basics of whatever you are using to study these big kind of objectives, these big KPIs, these big metrics. Are people coming? Are they spending time on your website? What are they looking at? But today we want to look at kind of running some checks on some smaller things that can move these numbers. So these big numbers of actually people spending time on your website, these people buying, these big goals are all driven and affected by some familiar beasts. If you've designed a website, the content, and well, if that sucks, I mean, it doesn't really matter how snazzy your website, how wonderful it looks is. If the things that you're telling people are generally uninteresting, boring, and or false, well, pretty soon they disappear off. So yes, definitely the quality of your content is key, and we can sort of measure that with the analytics in the ways that we've talked about. But SEO, how do we look at that, and what is that, Hannah?
So SEO is search engine optimization, and that is basically all the components on your website and working in the background, working together to help you be found in searches. This DIY will show us how we can check all those things. So on page is about the words you're using. You may have come across the term keywords and long tail keywords. That's referring to that. Image optimization. So are you using PNGs for all your big files, for example, which will slow your website down? And then getting your headings right. So making sure you're using H1, H2 titles in the correct places. And then off page is where yeah, no, it does. I was going to try and say it wasn't too techy, but no, it is techy. It's backlinks and how they boost your domain authority, which is a whole other subject we're not don't have time to go into today. Something called schemas, which again, super techy. That is a dev job, um, unless you want to spend hours learning what that is. It's your analytics, and then just basically all the magical techie stuff that goes
Yeah.
into making your website work.
Yeah, and I guess some of that kind of does spill into the technical performance of your website. Like, how fast does it load? And by technical performance, that's really what we're talking about. How fast does it load? How well does it perform? When people click on a thing, does it work, or do they get that weird 404, this page does not exist, and all of those sorts of things breaking on your website? Technical performance, like server speeds and page loads and delays and all the rest of it, sounds horrendous, sounds technical, but actually in these checks, it gets really quick and easy to see, well, how well you're doing. And some of these things are pretty easy and quick to fix. But ultimately, if you've got bad speed, customers lose patience and very quickly disappear off. And if you've got bad and broken bits, well, you lose trust, don't you? And I mean, if our website's got too many bad or broken bits, the chances of you actually trusting it with a purchase really rock bottom, and the chance of you actually phoning up and booking a discovery call also sort of rock bottom. So technical performance is important. It can be daunting, but these health checks very quickly give you a very good sense of how you're doing on it, and lots of the builders do a good job of this for you. But that leads us on to the user experience. Definitely broken bits is bad UX. But Hannah, yeah, do you want to tell us a bit about UX?
Yep. So it can be basically defined as how the website feels and how it looks to a user when they get there. How easy is it to navigate? Is it fun? But primarily, you're looking at what your user arrived on your website to actually do. What is their goal on your website, and can they achieve it easily? Can you reduce steps to help them get to their goal quicker? Sometimes you might have heard this referred to as a user story or a user journey, sometimes referred to. And so in a health check, we can find out things like where people are leaving your website. So if they scroll down maybe a couple of sections and then they go, well, maybe we can look into why that might be. Are all, and then it's a bit more sort of the technical stuff, like are all the buttons working? Are they perhaps too close together on mobile, which is really easily done? And just keeping on top of those things.
Yeah, and again, some of that now sort of fills and sort of filters into accessibility. If your buttons are too close together, then some people, little kids, erudite, like tiny little fingers, they'll probably be all right. But some of us will really struggle with that. Big clumpy fingers, sort of not so quite so good with the eyesight, and actually your website becomes unusable for me. Or your website becomes unusable for people who are colorblind, perhaps people who are only using keyboards to try and navigate websites as opposed to mouse and trackpads. There are lots of different people out there who come in lots of different shapes, sizes, abilities, and ways of looking at the world. And we want our website to work for as many people as possible and be as accessible as it can be for people. And so that's what we go and check with our health check. Is it? Like, how easy is it for everybody to access and to use our website? Now, these health checks are not full audits. What we want to do today is very quickly kind of check the temperature, take the pulse, see actually overall how well is this performing. I kind of view it as a bit like my Apple Watch. I'm sorry, I am, classic sort of web designer market person. I am an Apple fanatic, and I have my Apple Watch, and I love it because on the front it gives me three nice big dials. And today tells me I've been very lazy. I should have done the morning run, and I've not stood up enough, and I've not exercised enough. If I want to, I can click on that and start to dive into it. When everything's looking good, I don't bother. I just go, yeah, everything's doing pretty all right. I'll just carry on with my day. But when I want to, I can sort of really start to pin into it and say, actually, when did this start to go wrong? And why is it starting to go wrong? And I can start to look at this website in a bit more detail. Now, this is the website that brought you all to this webinar. this is the web page on the York and North Yorkshire Growth Hub. And very quickly, in the matter of sort of seconds, I was able to click a few buttons and see how this website is technically performing. And sorry, Growth Hub, name and shaming here. I do know that their website is under development. It is being redesigned as we speak, so it's probably okay to name and shame in this way. But if we take a little look at it, we can see that its performance, that technical performance and speed, is kind of middling. It is much better at accessibility, but it could definitely go a bit further. Best practices, whatever that means, seems to be okay. And the SEO, well, it's a bit more middling. Now, we should stress at this point, it worked, right? Over 30 people have come to this page. They found the webinar, they've registered, and they've come through to attend, right? So all of you are here, and therefore this is working. So don't get too hung up on these numbers going, oh my gosh, if I've got a 57, maybe I'll never make a sale, because clearly it's not everything. Sometimes UX is more important than performance. Sometimes SEO is not so important if you know that that's not how you're reaching people. The Google search engine is not your marketing plan. And in which case, perhaps your SEO is not as critical as other parts of your website and your web plan. So let's have a little bit of a look at some of the ways that we can check some of this stuff. So we're going to go blitzing through this. We're going to do this in the order that I find it easiest to understand, because I'm not techie, and I like it checking accessibility. It's nice, quick, and easy, and it's quite fun to check. SEO seems to be a big priority for people, so we might go have a little bit of a look at that. UX and user experience, I've pushed down the line because me and Hannah love it, so we could talk about it for the entire hour. So if we start there, we'll come a cropper. But we're also going to have a look at a bit on your content and your technical performance. So let's kick it off by having a little bit of a look at accessibility. And Hannah, you introduced me to a tool that is I'm now quite liking. It's definitely is got a place in my toolkit. Take us through. Let's get colorblind.
Yeah, it's a little extension that you can get for, I'm in Mozilla Firefox, and I know Google have something similar. It might be named slightly different. But it's dead easy to check, and it's really, really quick. You literally click your little extender extension icon, and then you can select any option or combination of these different types of color blindness that you can see in the slide, and it will show you what's going on with your website. Dead easy, really quick, highly recommend. And of course, it's free, which is great.
And I would definitely do this check. A client of mine that I've been working with lately was quite flabbergasted when I ran this check for them. They had a professional web designer design their website, but clearly he hadn't done this simple check. This is a section of their website. And for most of you, I'm sure you're saying, okay, well, it's a bit girly, it's a bit pink, but that's fine. If I want to sign up and click on the school food charter, I'm guessing that's a link, right? Because it's highlighted in pink, and there's the resources, and that's a link there probably, because that's all pink. But if you are colorblind in a certain way, maybe there's somebody on the call, let us know in the chat. If you are viewing this website and it looks like this, for a certain portion of the population, they're not sensitive to red and pink colors. And in this scenario, you cannot see the links at all. They become completely and utterly blended in with the rest of the text. There's no underlining, there's no indication that actually download our resources. Where do I go to download our resources? It's not highlighted, so it's just text. They were mortified when they realized that they've been running like this for years. And how many people have clicked on the website and gone, I don't understand how it functions. A tool that I quite like is called TopTal well, it's got a very long name. Search TopTal color and it'll pop up, and we'll send a link out for this. I quite like it because it shows you how sort of fully abled, full colored, enabled sighted person, normal vision. I don't know what the PC way to say that is, but how I see the website pops up on the left-hand side, and then those people with color deficiency, I do know the way to say that, color deficiency with their site is on the right-hand side. And I like that because I can see sort of the contrast. I can see what I'm losing in the process. Another tool that I really like because it sort of shows me the website and flags up errors is something called Wave. And the Wave Web Aim tool is great. You just head to it, you click, put your name, website domain in, click on it, and it loads your website up with a handy toolbar on the left hand side that tells you, and this is unfortunately my website, and it says, look, you've got no major errors, but you've got 8 big contrast errors. You've got some alerts. Not quite sure what the alerts are. But it also flags your website and adds these little flags that say, oh, there's a red thing up here, and something's gone wrong, and there's a red thing down here, something's gone wrong. So, Hannah, what was I getting wrong with my website?
So the first thing is the contrast errors. So the active link up at the top with the home it's too faint for certain color
Mm,
blindness to be able to see. You can improve that a little bit by making the font bold, but even still, it's a bit faint. And then similarly with the button down at the bottom, there's a contrast error there, which I mean, I would think that would be fine, but that's why we have these little tools to check us on our
yeah.
design
I
skills.
I thought that was fine. It said in my brand guidelines that that would be fine, and then I've come here and Wave have said no, it's not fine. It's just the other side of fine. And so yeah, it is definitely worth coming and checking these things. I also stuffed up those alerts, a kind of a quite common thing that I stuff up, which was with my photos. So do you want to share the sin that I made, Han?
Oh yeah. Yeah, as Rich says, like it's super common for this to happen. So if you don't put in something that's called alt text, the alt text will defer to whatever the file is called. So in this case, this picture of this lovely man with a dog is called Untitled Design 20, um, which if you're blind or if you need to use a screen reader, how that works is you tab through all the elements on the web page and it will read them out to you as you get there. So when somebody lands on this picture, it's going to say Untitled Design 20, which informs them of absolutely nothing. They have no idea what this image is, and then it loses its impact. It might be a really important image, for example. So dead easy to fix. Just make sure that all your images, even if you forget to do the alt text, try and get into the habit of labeling the images so that they are at least vaguely recognizable to what is in the picture.
And these kind of labels and mistakes are clearly a bit of a habit of mine because I'd also stuffed up with labeling another sort of bit of the website.
Yeah, again, another really common thing that people do. What this is showing is that these forms, this is the form, as you can see, and the input boxes, they have the placeholder text, which is the name and the email, but they don't have a label. And again, so when you're tabbing over the website, you will get to that input box with the reader, and it will just say input box. It won't tell you what that's for, what you need to put in there. And then, that person can't use your website anymore. So that's not very helpful.
No,
So you just need to make
I
sure
really want
you're,
people to use this form, Hannah. This is the form where people
yeah,
sign up to my mailing list. I definitely don't want
it's
them to
quite
get there and
important.
yeah, get there and kind of
Uh,
tab to it and go input.
yeah.
What are they going to input? So yeah, I was a bit mortified when I realised that I myself have made these blunders, and that's why it's so important to do these checks. If you've never run a health check on your website, if you've never run any checks on your website before, I would say this is a tool that me and Hannah kind of hate, but sort of I kind of love it for its simplicity. Like it is not a bad place to start if you've never done any of this before. It really simplifies things down, and it just checks one or two things. and they are generally the most important things, but it can be a bit of a harsh mistress in its scoring. So this is the website grader from HubSpot. It is website.grader. It's a really simple sort of domain. Links will be in coming out to you, but it's really straightforward. You just put in your website, you put in your email, and it goes away and gurgles for a bit. Whilst it gurgles, it gives you these really annoying kind of, they're supposed to be humorous phrases or ponderances, but they seem heavily AI driven, and slightly annoying, but it doesn't go on for too long. 60 seconds later, it churns out a lovely report. And this is the report. Once I'd kind of fixed a few things on that maintenance website from having a look at the accessibility, it gave me a 55 out of 100, which is definitely pretty middling. It really didn't like my performance or my sort of mobile stuff. It didn't score me too badly. I got 100 or 30 out of 30 for SEO. Well, I was quite proud of that. They're totally unplanned. And he said my security was okay, so that's nice. It's checking a few things. But Hannah, perhaps we should share quite where I've gone wrong with some of these things. Why did I only get 5 out of 30 for performance? Terrible.
Yeah, so this is something I mean, I assume your website is a little bit of a one-off with this, in that for some reason you have 104 HTTP requests coming on it, which is absolutely loads, and is slowing it down a lot. One thing that this is why I don't like this analyzer, is it doesn't really tell you why it is slower. So it says the heavier the site page, the slower the load. It's like, great, but what really is actually making it go slower? If you scroll down though, it talks about image size being too big, which is a good indicator. And although actually, Rich, I think I'm on your mobile one rather than the
Yeah,
desktop
yeah.
for that
Don't
one.
worry, the
So
desktop, it also says my image size is too big, but it doesn't tell me which images are too big. It just says image
no.
sizes are too big. I got loads of images. I don't know which ones are too big. Are they all too big? Yeah, it's
Um,
gives you a hint though, I suppose.
It does, yeah. So it tells you that something needs to be looked at. The other one as well is minified JavaScript and minified CSS, which in most website builders is literally just a little slider button. You just need to
Hmm.
click it. And basically what it does is it takes these huge code bases and just shrinks them right down so that your website is quicker. So definitely have a look out for that one.
Yeah, and it did also tell me that my buttons are too close together on mobile, like you were talking about earlier. So overall, I got this 55 score. It's not a bad place to start because it does give you a quick sense. It's really simple. By not telling you too much, it gives you some places to go off and check. And so if you're not going to do anything else, if you find the rest of today's session far too technical, go along to the website grader and just take a little check. Sometimes quite good websites get 55s, and I just want to say it is possible, to up this. I went away and did a few different bits and pieces, and on my Strive, Home Strive website, I managed to get it up to 95. So it is possible to score well with HubSpot, but it doesn't necessarily tell you all that much about it. But our next tool is one that you introduced me to, Hannah, and this gives you a bit more to go on, really. So it's really for SEO, but it does tell you a few other things around sort of performance and other bits and pieces. But it is mainly to do with SEO, and it's called SEO Optima or SE Optima or Optima. I don't know how you pronounce that, but
Yeah, yeah.
SEO Optima or SE Optima. It's got a confusing name. It shouldn't be confusing, but I'm not quite sure how you say it. But it's a great tool. So yeah, do you want to explain how it all works?
Yeah, so it does exactly the same as HubSpot, in that you put your website in and it'll do a little check and then it gives you a grade. And what I particularly like is it breaks it down into the different bits for you. Of the 5 categories, if you were just looking at doing your website yourself, and not necessarily needing a dev or a UX designer, you would really want to focus on the on-page SEO, the performance and usability. Social can come and go. That's easily enough to fix. But those three are the first ones to worry about. And then as you scroll down, you can get to the recommendation section, and it splits them up into those categories and gives you a priority of how important or impactful they are on your website. And then if you scroll even further down, it then tells you exactly what the problem is and where it is, which is really good. So looking at Rich's, or the enterprise one. So title tag. So your title tag is too long, Rich.
Oh, I know, I know. It's so unfair because it says title tags should be between 50 and 60 characters, which is quite helpful, right? Because you're now telling me what I need to do. So it's a bit better than HubSpot in that way, including spaces. And that seems a bit mean. So my title tag, Enterprise Cube, creating and unlocking business for everyone, is 4 characters too long. So I think that means on a whole bunch of screens, what people will actually see is Enterprise Cube, creating and unlocking business forever. I think I'm probably okay with, so I might not fix that. But yeah, it is just 4 characters too long. I could probably easily fix that by tinkering around, taking away this silly little bar I've got between Enterprise Cube and creating and unlocking. But yeah, that's quite helpful. It tells me what the problem is and whether I can fix it or not. But I've stuffed up in quite a few ways, haven't I, Hannah? So let's have a look at some of the other things
Yeah.
this helps you to find.
So another one, meta description tag. So this serves two purposes. It tells Google what your website does and what that specific page does, but also it's part of your SERP snippet. So that basically, when you Google something, it's the little section that you see in the Google searches. And what it's telling Rich is that his meta description is not long enough. You need some more words in there, Rich.
Yeah, too many words in the top title, not enough words in the next bit. I should be able to tinker with that and fix that. That's not going to be too hard and too technical. But
Yeah.
it also kind of goes away and analyzes all the content of your page, not just that top bit. And I sort of found
Yeah.
this quite fascinating because it told me that I wrote "we love" on this page 6 times, but I wrote the business name 5 times. So apparently we are more a page that is more geared towards loving than it is to Enterprise Cube or Social Enterprise or even business startup doesn't really seem to factor here. Why is business startup not a phrase on my website? So yeah, any tips around these keywords and what to be looking for? There's a whole bunch of ticks and crosses here. I'm not really sure apart from counting up how many times I use them.
Yeah, so this touches into, I mean, obviously it's an SEO thing. It's talking about your keywords, which is the top one, and then slightly longer. These are still keyword phrases. They're not quite long tail, keyword long tail phrases. But it's showing how many times these words show up. And then you need to think about, is that what I want my website to be showing? Thinking about when users Google for your service or for a service, you want these words to be appearing, say, in the title, in the meta description, in the heading tags, and how often on your page they do appear. Which is a lot, and you might feel like you're repeating yourself a lot, but the more you have, so Enterprise Cube should be perhaps above We Love, but the more you have that on your page, the more likely that Google is going to find it based on that search criteria.
Brilliant. And then yeah, as you go further down the page, it gets kind of a bit more pictorial. I quite like a little gauge. These gauges don't seem to be all in the green, and in some places, these pie charts seem to be a little bit worrying. What is this explaining to me, Hannah?
So it's breaking down your page speed and the download page size. So every time a website loads or you arrive on a website, it will preload it. And if it's too big, that then affects how quick it takes to actually load before you see it. And so what this is telling us from Rich, I mean, it's not actually that terrible, but generally you want to be in the bright green. So it's perhaps suggesting that, I mean, it says all scripts completed. So that takes a little bit of a while. But basically, yeah, Rich has too many massive images on
Yeah,
on your
yeah.
website.
Virtually all of my website apparently is these images. There's just these like I've got this lovely. I like people. I like photos of people. I've added loads of them. I'm not sure I added them very smartly, and so it is massively slowing down my website. And this kind of takes us into the subject of sort of technical performance. And it is a key bit of your website. Is just yeah, how fast does it load and how well does it perform? How well are your servers running and those sorts of things happening in the background? And this is that score that I showed you at the start. This 49 for my under maintenance website. And it is the big dial that comes up when you're running this test with something called page speed insights. Now, both HubSpot and SEO Optima are actually quietly in the background going off to Google, and their tool that is called Page Speed Insights to go and grab this information and then serve it up as part of their report. You can go straight to Google. Just Google PageSpeed Insights, hit the page, put in your web address, and it will churn out these scores. And front and center, the most highlighted one is performance. That's the first one they tell you about. And this is the one that is covering off a whole load of that sort of speed and whether your images are too high or too high, too big. Um, Now, I did go and run checks on the first 14 people to register, and I was quite curious to see, well, which websites performed well? Is everybody running really slow websites? Do we have people that have lots of problems? And as you can imagine, it was a bit of a mixed bag. But a bit of the top of the pops, the York Recovery, who actually use a web builder called Webador, had the fastest, well, pretty much the fastest. It was a nanosecond faster than OC Vintage, who built their website on Shopify. So sometimes these website builders can do a really good job. I think I'm always a bit fearful that they're gonna really slow down a website, things like Wix. But actually, Impact Shift and Runswick's Bay, they were slightly better in different areas. So actually, they beat both York Recovery and OC Vintage, who were good overall. But Impact Shift was the fastest for desktop users, not so good for mobile. You might want to go look at that. But then Runswick Bay, fantastic for mobile, not so good for desktop. And this is, I guess, why it's really important with any of these things to have a think about your users. How are they coming to your website? Are they all going to be on mobile? Are they all going to be on this or that? But these Google scores, and it is possible to get some really good Google scores. Once I'd done all the homework that Hannah gave me, I went away and I did get a really stonking score for my maintenance check. But I have to say, Google Page Insights, Hannah, it can be a bit confusing. There's a bunch of advice and recommendations on there that I don't really understand, and they're
Hmm.
supposed to have links through to advice, but I don't understand those either. Do you think that's a common
Yeah,
thing?
yeah, very. Ironically, Google are supposed to be quite helpful because they're a search engine. So why would they not have access to the most helpful information ever? But they don't. And this page, this is why it's good to sort of keep a check on it, but then use something else, either the HubSpot, although I personally, but SE Optima, I think is how I've decided I'm going to say it from now on. Is really good for then taking those scores and telling you exactly what is going on. I think with the Google Analytics and the page speed, it's just a bit too techy. They don't really break it down enough into plain English, I think.
Yeah, I think one thing that I do like about it is it does get really data and it's really kind of data
Yeah.
sort of insightful. So actually, next to each one of the tips, it tells you exactly how long is this glitch slowing down your website? How much extra time or extra memory is this adding? And that really helped me to kind of prioritize which bits was I going to fix first, which bits were most important. But I should stress, I do have a background in UX and I do know a bit. So it's probably less daunting for me. I think a lot of users might get to this website and just feel completely and utterly baffled. Its UX is surprisingly not great. I guess its UX is driven to work really well for developers and programmers and people that are used to all of these sorts of things. And so its UX works for its users, but possibly not for others. Now, me and Hannah could talk for a really long time about UX, but if you're not familiar with UX, it's if you've probably heard phrases like call to actions, and that it's really important that your call to actions are kind of clear, that they're front and center, that they tell people what you're asking them to do, and that it's easy for them to go and take those actions. And that sort of thing is what makes up UX. Another really important message of UX is to give people information just in time. You want to be navigating through a website, and just at the moment you go, "Ooh, where's that?" It appears, and you can see that bit of information front and center when you want it, when you need it, not trying to give all the information all at once, because that leads to people feeling overwhelmed. What we need to do is structure our websites and create a really nice user flow so that the customers feel like they're just kind of flowing through the website, doing what they want to do as they want to do it. And it's all nice and easy and hopefully sort of joyful, right? You want people to really enjoy coming and using your website. So I guess me and Hannah find it hard to say, here's the quick check on UX, because we think you should do loads of really thorough checks, because that's what we do. And we charge people for UX audits. And do feel free to come through and book a UX audit with either of us, and we will really go to town on improving your UX. But this is a DIY health check. So what do I recommend in a do-it-yourself way? Well, bash it, drop it, boot it is my advice. Basically, get people to have a go at doing stuff on your website. My advice would be to pick the 5 most important things that customers can do on your website. It might be navigating to the contact us. It might be booking a discovery call. It might be going through and purchasing an item. Whatever it is that you think is most important, pick the top 5. Where's the camera? There we go. Pick the top 5 and then get 5 people who haven't been to your website before to go to your website and try and do those things. And you'll get a pretty good experience and a level of feedback as to whether these things are working, whether it's easy, whether it's fun, or whether they found this bit or that bit hard. Where was the button to do this? They struggled with that. It is what underpins an awful lot of UX work, is actually getting users to test it. And this is those user stories that we're talking about at the start, and these user journeys. Pick your 5 most important user stories, that things that you want users to do, and then just get people to have a go. When you want to dig a bit deeper, you can have a look at Google Analytics. I would say come back to that thing we mentioned a few moments ago. How are people actually using your website? If 75% of people are using your website on desktop, maybe when you're getting people to test it, get them to test it on desktop. That's how most people are using it. If it's 75% mobile, then maybe do that. 1% of people see my website on tablet, so I'm probably not going to run too many checks on that. I do want it to work for that 1% of people, but not at the cost of the 99% of everybody else. There are loads and loads of different tools out there. I quite like tools that give you a heat map. This is where you can see where people are clicking and where people are looking, and it actually sort of shows you where is most important on your website, or where users are seeing as being most important. But if you really want to get into UX and you go, I really want my users to really enjoy my website, then this is definitely the place to start. We're both in love with this website, aren't we, Hannah?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's beautiful in many, many ways.
So this
Um,
is the laws of UX. What can people find on this website, Hannah?
Basically, it breaks it down into really manageable chunks of information on how sort of the psychology behind behavior and consumers will impact your website, and how you can inform your design around that sort of psychology behavioral basis.
Yeah, and it also just looks great. This website is a
Yeah.
really is a joyful, nice website to use and get the most from. If you do want to truly run your own UX audit, you can geek out if you really want to, and we'll drop a link to this. But you can head to the Interaction Design Foundation, And they have an actual framework which you can follow through. It's probably the most established framework for doing a full audit on how fun and enjoyable and functional and just generally good is your user experience. But I wouldn't recommend it to most. I'd recommend you call Hannah or me and get us to do it instead. But that's where you would head to if you want to really dive deep on how to do this for yourself. And that leads us to content. And well, this is fundamental, isn't it, Hannah? Like, if your content sucks, your website sucks. It doesn't matter about anything else. And so this is message number one. You'll find social media marketing, everybody saying the same thing. Make sure your content is good. But how do we go about checking whether it's good? Well, Hannah kicked us off with this by sort of saying, actually, have a look. Where are people clicking? Look at those session durations. And I think something that is really useful is just to fire up Google Analytics, something like that. Head to the section that tells you about your pages, and you'll get a graph like this. And it tells me that my most popular page is the booking page. So I have a website just for people who come through our courses. And the most important thing, the most popular thing that they come to do is to book a one-to-one with one of the team. So that is priority number one. So I need to make sure that I always serve that to people really well, really easily, and that's a good, enjoyable page. But I can also have a look through and see I have these weird peaks in my users and in my traffic. And essentially, it ties in with the course starts. The course start, we get this huge influx of traffic as everybody kind of competes and bids for a place on the course. And then we select 30. And all of a sudden, my user traffic drops because now I've only got 30 people on each course. I've only got 100 users at any one time coming through, and they come through for the next 7 or 8 weeks, regularly hitting that booking page, finding out about projects that they can do, and then it goes to a ghost town. Now, I could panic at this point in mid-April. Absolutely nobody is on my website. But they're not supposed to be. This is a functional website for me. I'm not trying to drive traffic. The courses are all closed. I don't want anything to happen until people turn up for the next set of courses. And then reliably, I get another big peak and it all starts again. So do start to get to know the flow and what you're trying to achieve with your websites with these things. It's not always just a game for more and more traffic. You want more of the right kind of traffic that's hitting the objectives you want to hit. But before we leave you, we should wrap up with a whole bunch of other tools that we like to use because we're not very loyal, are we, Hannah? We like to jump
No.
around. We like to get a freebie. And there are so many different tools out there with different free offers that you can pretty much jump around, barely paying anything to run through checks of your website. So do you want to pick out some of your favorites, Hannah?
Yeah, I'll start with SEMrush because some of you might have come across it if you've ever sort of looked into your SEO yourself. SEMrush is like SEO Optima on steroids. It is hardcore SEO analytic things. However, it makes everything, whilst I say that, it sections everything off for you, and you can build campaigns around whatever it is you're trying to improve with your SEO, whether that's an on-page SEO audit, or you're trying to improve your domain rating or your domain authority with backlinks. It can take you through all of those. And what they do is they have a free academy. So you can go and learn how to do all these things, and they chunk all the information into manageable courses. And as I say, it's all free, but it does take a lot of time to learn. So you need to decide how worth it you think that's going to be, or like Rich says, you let somebody else do it and ask us to do it for you.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah, I
the
think at
first
some
one.
point it's worth outsourcing this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you get to using things like Hrefs and Moz and SEMrush, yeah, I mean, if you learn all of that stuff, you can sell yourself as an SEO consultant, and maybe you should just get an SEO consultant.
It takes a really long time, and it's a lot of knowledge. Each individual section, whether it's backlinks, off pages, on page SEO, each of those is its own rabbit hole. So by all means, you can get a free account. It is restricted, obviously, but just bear in mind that if you're going to run it through that, it's a big learning curve.
Yeah, no, definitely. How about in the kind of content checks, technical performance stuff? Any other sort of things to mention? Go check out.
Yeah, other than the ones we've said, I use something called Rankability, which has a 7-day free trial. Um, I now pay for it because I think it's absolutely worth it, but obviously it's my job, so that's why I use it. It is an SEO tool, but it can help with content because it's really an on-page SEO tool. So it will measure for your keywords. And basically how it works is you put in a search term, so what you think your users will be searching for. So say like interior design York. And then what it will do is it will pull up the top 30 results, and then it will analyze the content on all of those pages and put it in a lovely list of 60 top keywords or keyword phrases. And then it gives you an optimizer, which is basically a text editor. And then you can start writing any content that you need. And as you include those keywords, they go green, which I find very satisfactory. And then there's a little counter at the bottom as well. It tells you how many you've got out of 60 that you've included. And then also it will, this is where it gets very techy. I'm not quite sure how it does this because the score changes for whatever your phrase is. But say like the minimum optimum number or score out of 100 that you want for your page is 73. Once you get to 73, it does like little fireworks and you've achieved your goal. And then it will rank you against your competitors as well. So the whole point is you're analyzing the content of your competitors and then beating them at it.
Mm.
So I think it's brilliant, but it is very expensive. And you must remember, if you sign up for the free trial, do cancel your card
Mm.
before, not don't cancel your card, cancel the trial
Cancel the trial.
before it charges.
Quicker and easier to
Yeah,
cancel the trial than your card.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
guess just to finish us off with a couple of like smaller, less techy things. If you're kind of going, well, I want more tools, but I don't want to go that techy. Hemingway Editor's kind of fun. All you do is you copy and paste text from your website, shove it into Hemingway Editor, and it gives you a reading sort of complexity, so a reading age. And that can really help to kind of, maybe you're seeking to be complex, maybe you're seeking to be simple, but just to check that your content is has a sort of slightly consistent tone, has a consistent level of complexity. Um, Actually, you can head to any of the LLMs, any of the sort of AI, ChatGPT and Gemini, and ask them to summarize your page. That can be quite helpful just to see, well, actually, how do these AI tools, how are they sort of minifying and simplifying this down? And it's, yeah, it can be quite interesting if you're not if an LLM does not get a good summary of your website. I mean, check it once or twice, but it probably means that you've gone down a bit of a rabbit hole. You've gone off and talked about something else too much, and therefore it's not really a page that's geared to what you think it's geared to, and that's surprisingly easy to do. Um, as an Adobe user, I should also put a shout out to Adobe Color. It's quite useful if you're trying to work through those different colors and contrast issues. But we'll send a whole bunch of these links out to you with what they're good for, so that you can go away, run those checks. And I hope today has been helpful. But Hannah, you've got a bit of a special offer for people who are struggling with some of these things. If they're here, if they're registered for the call, what's the special freebie?
The first 10 people to email through can get a free 45-minute, although actually I think I extended it to 50 minutes, so there's a thing, but can get a free 50-minute consultation with me, and we'll go through anything we've mentioned today in a bit more depth. We can go through your website and have a look at what improvements or changes you might need to make. And yeah.
Yeah, that is an absolutely awesome offer, especially now it includes that extra 5 minutes. It's surprising how much Hannah can do in 5 minutes in explaining, yeah, go fix this, go do sort that out, or you don't know how to sort that out, I can tell you. So yeah, do grab those sessions, and I'm going to see if I can cheekily grab one of those sessions too. And with that, I'm just going to thank Hannah for all of her help. I thank you for coming. And so we hope to see you at another webinar soon.